The place that we choose to go to find our equipment is kind of going to dictate the quality of it. Obviously, if we're going to Amazon and any of these types of websites for our tattoo equipment, these aren't tattoo specialists. Don't get me wrong, I know that there are some high quality brands that decide to sell through Amazon, but you don't know what those good brands are if you don't have any experience. So first things first is make sure that you're going to a reputable tattoo supplier. If you're in the UK or Europe, then my sponsor Killer Ink is one of the biggest suppliers in Europe. You know that you're going to get high quality supplies from suppliers like Killer Ink. Obviously, I'm not so familiar with the suppliers in, say, America, Australia, and other parts of the world. Do your research, just a quick Google search, tattoo supplier in my country. With that being said, a lot of the equipment that I use is available around the world through different tattoo suppliers. So in terms of my ink, I like to use dynamic ink for my black. I use straight black when I water down my grey wash. For my stencil applicator, I use Stencil stuff. I've been using this since I started tattooing and I've never had any problems with it, so I've never changed. In terms of my needles, I use Quadrin needles or I will use Stellar. Quadrin are available everywhere. They're world renowned. They're some of the best needles that you can buy. So they're going to make themselves very easily accessible regardless of where you are. So it doesn't matter what website you're using, as long as you're searching for key brands, you will find them. I don't like to use A&D ointment. I don't like Vaseline. Anything like that really shouldn't be on skin because it's not actually that hygienic. So I like to use Inkies. Inkies, because it's made for tattooing, it's gonna have ingredients in it that are going to benefit the skin and more specifically damage the skin. So petroleum jelly and anything like that, it's really not the best stuff to use. So make sure you're getting a good tattoo ointment that's going to look after your client's skin. And then over here, we have my UV sterilizer for my tattoo machine. Inside is my newly sterilized Dragon Hawk Fold Pro. Dragon Hawk are available through multiple different suppliers. I believe they're a Chinese-based company. You can get them from dragonhawkofficial.com or you can go on killerink.com. I'm sure other suppliers around the world are going to have Dragon Hawk. So if you're confused about quality of machine, some people say, you know, I've used a Dragon Hawk, but I want to get a better quality machine so I can get better results. Don't get me wrong. If you have to rely on a machine rather than technique, that machine won't help you. You need to make sure that you're getting a good result, a good clean result with good technique with a machine like Dragon Hawk. So I'm 14 years in and I still use a Dragon Hawk purely because I know that it's not wise to rely on a machine. Obviously, Bishop are a very good quality machine. I used to use Bishop before I used Dragon Hawk. But just because these are a lot cheaper, it doesn't make them a lot worse. I still do tattoos that I'm very happy with my Dragon Hawk Fold Pro. And then because we're tattooing skin, obviously we need to make sure that we are sterilizing our tattoo machine so that it's clean in between every session. So this UV sterilizer is nice. I can take my machine apart and I can run it through the UV machine. Now the UV machine, the UV light has to be touching the surface of the machine to sterilize it. If the light doesn't get to the parts of the machine, then it's not going to sterilize it. So just keep that in mind when you are using equipment like this. If you can get your hands on an autoclave, a real sterilizer, then that is going to be even better. Obviously, you're going to be a lot more thorough. And then the other things like our bottles and our wash bottles, our green soap. I have to get my green soap and my sterile water from a tattoo supplier because this is getting into the realm of, you know, the hygienic aspect of tattooing. I need to make sure that everything is the best that it can be and very hygienic. So bottles like this of our H2O, this is sterile water, and we want to use stuff like this when it comes to, you know, our green soap wash bottle, our water when we're diluting our grey wash. I use my sterile water for all of that. So don't cut corners, don't get it out the tap, don't get it out the kettle. That's just nasty. If there was anything that you can safely get from Amazon, I would say it's something like your gloves. You know, these types of gloves are used for so many different things that these are a lot more accessible than a lot of other tattoo related products. I do use nitrile purely because with the latex gloves, people can be allergic to latex and have a bit of a reaction. So with nitrile, there's less of a chance to have some type of reaction, so I like to use nitrile gloves. Then obviously once it comes to our fake skin, I like to use real skin, which I get from my sponsors at Killer Ink. And to stencil that, I use my Spirit stencil paper. Again, same as my stencil stuff. I've used this since I started tattooing as well. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I will either hand stencil straight onto this, or I've got my brother printer over there in the corner, which looks something like this. And so if I've got a very particular design, which I don't want to hand stencil it because I want it to be very precise and particular, I will run it through my stencil machine. And then that's pretty much it. When it comes to taking my stencils off, if I want to replace my stencil, I've got some hand sanitizer here, some rubbing alcohol. And then there's things like, you know, your razors, your tongue depressors, ink caps, grip tape, my tape, all of the little bits and pieces. I mean, like, the quality doesn't matter too much. I personally think a good razor makes a big difference. Having a bad razor, it's the worst start to a session. And then obviously things like our paper towel, we've got our cling film or saran wrap, whatever you like to call it. Again, I personally think that, you know, these things you can get from the store, but I think having good quality paper towel, a bad quality paper towel, it's gonna break apart and it's gonna create a messy environment for you to tattoo in. And it's just not as satisfying and clean to work in. So having good quality paper towel and saran wrap is also going to benefit you. I also like to use these dental style bibs to put on top of my saran wrap. So whenever I'm covering my station, I like to have my extra layer, and I feel like that's it. I think pretty much all that is left is to consider our furniture, our stool. I do have pillows here. I've got disposable pillow covers like this, which again, I buy from my tattoo supplier. When my client uses the pillow, I want a fresh pillowcase every time so that my client knows that it's fresh and comfortable for them, you know? So yeah, little things like the light, I probably think I bought that from Amazon. My iPad stand, my phone stand, all the little bits, you know, if it's not specifically tattoo related, you can go and get this stuff on Amazon. To make things a little bit cleaner and organized for myself, I like to buy these trays which house all of my different equipment. It keeps everything nice and organized. And the same with my needles. My needles are all in order. I've got my pens and all my scissors. So I don't think I forgot anything. If I have forgot something, feel free to comment and let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next video. We're going to talk about hygiene, how to set up a station, how to break it down, and what you should be doing to keep a healthy, hygienic workflow throughout the tattoo process.